Hey, what's going on? You're now tuned in to the PVD Horror Podcast. I'm Brandon and I'm joined by my co-host Dave. Today, we're going to just start a new little series because we're big fans of the show The Last of Us. Dave has not been able to play the video game. I have
Yep.
played both and they rank really high on, on top of my favorite video games that were ever created. You know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
just like being able to kind of like watch the show and kind of talk with Dave about what's going on. And so if you're listening and you haven't played the video game, we're not giving spoilers because if I
All
did
right.
that, we would fuck up Dave's,
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, no spoilers. I don't want
yeah,
that.
I don't want to do that. So far, Dave, how do you feel about the show in general?
All right. So obviously season one, like you said,
Mm,
we're big fans. Season one. I actually rewatched season one to prepare
okay.
for this.
Yep.
And yeah, it kind of like refreshed my memory about a few things.
Hmm.
But also I think it was a really good thing to watch it because it also reminds you of the shift in some of the characters that
Yeah.
really plays into what we see happen in season
Hmm.
two in the first episode. So yeah, the first episode, I think it's like a kind of like a setting. It's like just setting events, right?
Yep.
Setting the tone, setting like kind of like what's probably to come, hinting at a few things. So it was an episode where like not a I feel like not a whole lot like happened per se. I mean, obviously there
Yeah.
was stuff, but it was more about just kind of like setting the tone, showing like where people are at. Ellie's obviously kind of a little like rebel now.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
Yep.
and she's found some friends and, she's kind of growing up and Joel's kind of like turned into this father guy,
Yeah.
Mr.
It's
Dad.
it's it's been a wild ride, because, like I said, being a big fan of the video games, you become locked into these characters. You're
Mhm.
controlling them, going through all the emotions. So whatever you see on this TV screen, I mean, it's only half of the experience of, what you get playing these games because Naughty Dog is the creators of, The Last of Us. And just, I remember just playing the first game for the first time, and it was just like, wow, this is just so crazy because if you're also a fan of the video game Uncharted, Naughty Dog has also created that game, and we had seen like some things kind of just not work out for, films for Naughty Dog because they turned Uncharted into a full-length
Oh yeah.
film,
Yep.
and that didn't go well at all.
No.
And so I think it was great, that HBO Max signed on and picked up Uncharted because we would just miss so much detail to these characters. No one would be big fans of this series if it was a film, you know what I mean? Because you'll miss so much. And
Yeah,
so like
you couldn't condense the storyline
not at
into
all.
2 hours. Yeah.
Not at all. So this is like I'm saying like 20 hours or more, gameplay for each
Yeah.
game, you know what I mean? So just imagine that. And so like we just talked about it, even like in the first season, um they had some like DLC moments, like downloadable content, like add-ons that were added into the first season. So the whole episode with Ellie and her friend at the mall that was in Boston. That was DLC content. So that was something that you got like later on after the game. So
Gotcha.
that's just one thing I love that they do with this series. They just put in so many little Easter eggs and like just add on to the story to kind of like connect it to kind of
Yeah.
keep it going.
I think it's going to inspire a lot of other games to get adapted into shows like this
Yeah.
because like you said, like adding in like DLC content and making that
Hmm.
into part of like a storyline, that's super smart because
Hmm.
that's there, it exists already. So why not utilize it in the story?
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So you were able to go back and watch the first season. How many episodes were in the first season?
Uh, was it six or eight? I'm trying to remember.
Mm,
It was relatively short though, so I mean, it was pretty easy to kind of like catch up really fast.
yeah.
Um, and it was funny because as I was watching it, it was like I remembered everything, but it was like I remembered it as I was watching it. I was like, oh yeah, 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 I remember all this. But
Hmm.
like, so sometimes like I rarely ever do that, go back and rewatch before the new season. But for this one, I was like, it's been so long
Yeah.
that I want to kind of know exactly what's going on with everybody.
Yeah. And also, I want to bring up again too, just the one thing that they do with the show that just makes it so special. You remember the episode with Bill, with him and his boyfriend.
Yes.
They
Yep.
had that whole long run episode, and it was just like it was out of this world because at the same time it was a little different for us as the players of the video game because we weren't able to experience that part of the story. There was just like a little hint that, Bill had something on the side and it was never like dug deep into. And it was just kind of like Bill saying, "Hey, get rid of this girl because you're gonna get hurt."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So basically they were able to adapt that into a whole episode in the first season, and so I will also speak on that from watching the second episode, the first episode of season two. That's something else they had added in. So,
Okay.
you want to start off with just giving a rundown of the characters that we got
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. So we got Joel Miller, played by
Hmm.
Pedro Pascal. We got Ellie Williams, who's Bella Ramsey.
Hmm.
We got Abby Anderson. This is a new
Yep.
character in the show, played by the lovely Caitlin Dever, who I think is such a great actress. So that's a great addition right there.
Yeah.
Isabella Merced plays Dina, and Gail is played by Catherine O'Hara.
Yep. And this is just a rundown of what we've seen in the first episode.
Yeah.
The first episode is called Future Days. So, this was a really special episode. Like I said, we're locked in for 7 episodes this season,
Okay.
and they already signed on for season three. So that's where I'm kind of like thinking like season three, like, okay, like what are we gonna do here? Like what's going on? And so it made me think like, damn, are we gonna like have a break and like are they gonna split this into like
Mm.
two? You know what I mean? And it's like that's what I can think because so far there's only two games, you know?
So
So
as far as how like how much they covered in this episode, do you think they covered enough where you could see them wrapping up the entire rest of the game in the 7 episodes? Or do you think like they stretched out a lot of content here so that the
mhm.
next 6 episodes are going to continue to be stretched as well?
I think we're gonna stretch it out a little bit
Yeah.
because from even what I've seen in this first episode, I'm like, whoa, they're moving fast. They're moving fast. And so even like with this where we're at, we're kind of like digging in a little bit fast, but I'm like, okay, well, I trust them from seeing season one what
Yeah.
they could do with it. And so what they're gonna add in, like I said, like those added in episodes like that. So we're definitely gonna get something like that again.
Hmm.
But the first episode it starts off with a very important scene where Ellie asked Joel, was everything she telling him true about the Fireflies? And Joel responded back, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you've seen that long pause and they're just sitting there staring at each other. And then Ellie finally says, okay.
And right before that,
Hmm.
he's talking his head off, and you can see that she's like with him, but
Hmm.
not super into the way that he's talking to her because all he keeps talking about is his daughter and how
Yeah.
they would have been friends. And
Hmm.
you can tell right there that she's like, oh man, this guy is now treating me like I'm his new daughter.
Yeah. And
And yeah, she has that little moment there.
hmm and that's where it's going because it's like, like we said, like in the first game and in the first season, right away, Joel's, daughter, passes away,
Hmm.
and just like I said, like that, even that scene in the game, just that part was heavy because that's like the whole opening scene of the game. And I loved how they adapted, that into the video game where you learn a little bit more about Joel and his daughter. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, in the video game, it starts off with like Joel and his daughter like sitting on the couch, joking back and forth. And, Joel's daughter falls asleep on the couch, brings her up to bed, and then she wakes up, and then it's kind of like going through that scene where she's exploring the house, like, Dad, where are you? Dad, where are you? Like looking for him and he's not home. And then Joel comes home, like, in a frantic panic. And that's when you see your first, zombie, so infected.
Yeah.
And so then you just start going through this like wild, crazy opening scene of like them just trying to get past. And then, like I said, you become these characters, you control them. And then so it's like when something happens to them, you're just sitting there just kind of like, what the fuck did I just experience? It's like
Right.
it's not the
Right.
same. But
So in your opinion, do you find Ellie's character in that scene to be kind of like a conflicting because like don't you feel in some of season one or maybe even some of the earlier in the video game
Hmm.
it was almost like she wanted him to open up to her, she wanted
Yeah.
him to be like closer to her, but then when
Hmm.
he finally does she's kind of like whoa whoa whoa, like isn't it kind of feels like a setup for Joel in a way, like he finally opens up but then obviously he goes a little too far.
Yeah, and I think that's the real human nature of anything, you know. I mean, I feel as though that, we work with kids,
Yeah,
and you see sometimes when, someone probably adopts a kid and then once they get to an older age, they're just kind of like, I want to meet my real parents. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like
yeah,
you're not
sure.
my mom, you're not my dad. And
Hmm.
you go through that experience and stuff and I think that's kind of where we are with Ellie and Joel, where it's like it starts to hit in because you're together and then it's like you got to look at it. It's like, the end of the world, you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
like so crazy. And so with a lot that they have been through, it's just like a really special moment, you know what I mean? Because it's like I said, there's so much dialogue and everything with this video game, and then they impact it in they're just great creators, man. And
yeah,
so just
yeah.
being able to do all that, so yeah, but
Yeah, no, and I just one of the last, I think it was the last episode in season one, there's that moment
hmm
where the giraffe, they see the giraffe,
yep,
and she in that moment like basically tells Joel like we're gonna move on.
yeah,
We don't give up. We're doing this.
hmm
And like that was her invitation for Joel to like trust her. We're gonna do this together. We're not gonna turn around. Joel at that point wanted to protect her,
hmm
but he also was like, all right, fine. They go through with whatever. And obviously, Firefly was different than what Joel expected. And then he couldn't
yeah,
kind of follow through with what they wanted. And it's interesting because, like, I think he took that as a different request from her. I think she just wanted to have somebody that she felt like we're together in this, right?
yeah,
And he just is a natural protector. So I don't think that that's something he could even like do. He can't
yeah,
be her equal. He wants to protect her.
and that was the thing. It was just like at first it's like, all right, kid, all right, you're just trying to make this quick
Yeah.
drop, and then it becomes like you're together and you just become one, and it's just like, I can't let this happen. And so
Do you think she would have wanted Firefly to experiment on her the way they were going to, and die if she thought it was going to be for the cure?
I don't think so, but that's the thing, you're a kid and you have just so many emotions kind of going through your head. You really don't know what you want, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so I think that's where we're experiencing that whole conflict between those two because it's a tricky situation, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think that she's happy that Joel didn't do it, and at the same time it's like, but I'm just gonna hold this grudge on you, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
So
You didn't give me the choice, I think is
yeah,
her issue, right? Like
hmm,
he took the choice from her.
yeah,
Now we get introduced to some new characters. Do you want to explain that scene a little bit?
yeah. So this was a big shift. It was a little different change of pace from the video game, and which I told to you, I'm like, whoa, we're moving fast here
Yeah.
because Abby's character was revealed way too soon. And I even like after I'm watching this, I'm just like, whoa, 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 like what's going on here? Because she's not revealed until like a little bit more down the road. Like if we were doing this in like the order, she would be in like on the third episode. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm kind of like, oh, what is going on here?
I feel like they added her into this episode. If that's the case,
Hmm.
maybe because if you think about it, in this episode, outside of like the village itself, there's no like ops at all.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's almost like we have to add it in so you guys start to get a little like sense of danger
Hmm.
more so than there's like just this like internal issue happening in the little
Yeah.
encampment that they're at, because
Yeah.
I feel like the episode would have been pretty lame, I guess, if you don't have
Hmm.
that looming thing like, oh shit, they're gonna find him.
Yeah. And so then you have, Abby's, her camp that she's with, and then they're going through and having the conversations of also speaking about like, oh, Joel and the whole rundown of everything, saying, hey, the story was that he had this girl that was infected, but then she cut off. No, no, that couldn't happen. Like talking about the cure and
Yep.
everything. And
Yep.
so they had their own, discussions of everything. So what did you take away from that part? Like when you were watching that?
I mean, I was kind of just thinking of, I mean, some of this episode reminded me of like stuff you would see in Walking Dead, where it's like you
Yeah.
got this other camp that's like kind of conspiring because they feel like they were wronged in some way, and they're gonna
Hmm.
and you really just realize how much people hate Joel in
Yeah.
like out even within his camp, but like outside of his camp.
Hmm.
Like he has a reputation. We didn't see that so much in the first one, in the first season. We knew people were trying to kill them all the time, but it was like not, it wasn't always personal
Yeah.
against Joel. It was just Joel in these situations. But now
Hmm.
you see like he's been doing a lot of stuff, I guess, over time that's pissed a
Yeah.
lot of people off, and it seems to be like coming back to him.
Yeah. And so then you just have so many like things going on where it's just like, they're like, okay, we're gonna help you. And, just that look into, Abby's face and she's like slowly and
Yeah.
like kind of just going on. And because they're at like a little grave site. So that was great because a lot of people were kind of looking in and like thinking like how's Caitlyn gonna be for this role as Abby? Because it's like you look at Caitlyn and a lot of people at first was like, I don't know about this decision on casting her. She doesn't match up, because Abby's character, she's kind of like a little jacked, you know what I mean? And so you
Hmm.
have Caitlyn where she's just like the sweetheart lady, like you know what I mean? And then so it's like can she transform into this character that we're gonna see? And then it's like, and then we're like, okay, well, from the first episode, what we did see from her, we're like, I think
Oh yeah.
she has it.
She put the face on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think no one what was it? No One Will Save You or whatever
Yeah.
the alien movie she was in. I think that kind of
Hmm.
showed some range and
Yeah.
like she can communicate a lot with just her face and body language. So she
Yep.
definitely has some range. So I think we got to see a little bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then right after that scene, we click in and it shows 5 years later. And so then we kind of move right into like Joel and Ellie on on that camp where
Papa Joel.
yeah, he's aged,
Yeah.
and Ellie's as aged as also.
Yeah.
She's also 19 years old now, you know what I mean? So that was one thing that we had talked about before when I was talking to you about Ellie's character. Like I'm like, okay, I'm glad they gave the season a break because, Bella Ramsey's just like was young.
Yeah.
And then like I didn't know what they were gonna do. Are they gonna recast? Because that's where everybody was thinking like, okay, because this girl's way too young for what's coming in this next season.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of looking at it. I'm like, all right, well, she's a little bit older and she's actually 21 in real life. So that break, we had like a 2 year break, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. She just looks young. Her
yeah.
face looks young, but yeah, she's 21. That's interesting.
Yeah, and that was the thing. It was just like playing the first game, and then when the second one came out, you just see how much Ellie like transformed. And so it was just like, okay, are we gonna get that from her? Because I don't want this to kind of look like she's still a little kid,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. The time definitely helped with that part.
yeah. So now you see Ellie, she's into so many other things. We open up with this like fighting scene. She's sparring to like
Hmm.
defend herself. We're introduced to another character named Jesse. He's gonna be an important character also, so
Okay.
keep your eye on him. He's that'll be great. Because the storytelling of this is so I can't, man. I'm just that's why I'm like, wow, like my favorite video game of all time, yeah, come my for me was probably like Resident Evil
Hmm.
growing up, just because of the story and everything that you put into it. But it was just like Resident Evil was made so that something like this can be created.
Sure.
And so it's
Sure.
like,
It definitely helps. Yeah.
yeah, like just the storytelling, man. It's so nuts. And then so to see this play out on the TV is just special. So like I said,
And
these
I think it's interesting to see, like, because we knew her in one way,
hmm
and now you kind of see all these other relationships she has, and
yeah.
um, but yeah, then obviously the stuff with Joel over the past 5 years has kind of been building up.
Hmm.
So it picks up kind of from there where we saw it last with that, like, kind of that, like you said, like knowing that he wasn't being honest with her,
Yep.
and that's obviously built some resentment over time.
Yeah. And like you said, their relationship is like was strained due to Ellie discovering the truth about Joel's actions.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so that was just, so much going on that we had, like we talked about earlier, just Joel taking on that responsibility, becoming like a father and everything. And we would just see all those things just play out where it was just like we're seeing Joel in therapy. So you want to talk a little bit
That
about
was
that?
an interesting scene. Yeah. So we got was it Gail?
Yeah.
That is so she's kind of like their therapist, and
Hmm.
Joel walks in, and it's obviously a setting you wouldn't expect a guy like Joel being in. You don't expect a Joel to be in therapy, but he's
Yeah.
trying to change, his ways, and he's trying to get some advice. And he goes in there, and Gail is clearly drunk.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's, it's Catherine O'Hara. She's a great actress. So
Hmm.
I feel like she played that role really well. She's drunk. She's like just annoyed by him,
Hmm.
and then drops this huge bomb that
Yeah.
Joel killed her husband, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a tense scene because she's just sitting there berating him and saying how annoying he is, and how his
Hmm.
his face, every time just looking at his face makes her hate him more.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's not doing anything about it other than just telling him exactly how much she hates him.
Yep. And I was able to get Joel to talk a little bit to kind of like, I think she did that to kind of get him to talk. I don't think that she did it like in a malicious way to just start shit with him. It was just like, okay, well, you need to like realize and get past it and throw it on the table, kind of like how I have.
Yeah,
And so he was able to recognize that. And he was just like, was like, what did you do to her? And he was
right.
like, I saved her. Like, what I mean? So, and that's when we kind of get into those discussions of everything where it's just like, he,
Yeah, yeah. He can't get over that. Like,
hmm
I saved her life, and then she treats me like I hurt her in some way. And
yeah,
that's the hardest thing for him to understand.
hmm And it's hard because, and it's crazy because it's like I also told you earlier, just how these characters are like put into the storyline. So for one thing, Gail's character is not in the video game.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
That's an added player. Yeah. An
Yep.
added character, not
Yep.
player.
So the thing is with Gail, like she said, she brought up Eugene. And so remember when he came in, he gave her the bag of weed. And so and then she brought up Eugene saying, hey, hey, he could grow this all
Hmm.
season long,
Yeah.
because Joel's response was, hey, it's a bad season. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so when you're going through like the mission, like a mission kind of where Ellie and Dina we're kind of like going through like where the market scene is and everything like that. The lead up to that, you're going through like the post, doing like check-ins and stuff like that, and you find like bongs and like weed and stuff, and that's how Eugene is brought up. Whereas like he was known for growing marijuana in the game, and it was just like put together, and so like it was just like to give Eugene this blessing of being in the game because him and Joel were friends, I guess. They served, you know, together doing stuff. And so they were able to put this in. Like you said, Gail said that Joel killed Eugene. There was an episode, I guess, that was kind of like thrown out there that we're gonna get an episode about Eugene and Joel, kind of like how
Okay.
Bill was the layout,
Sure. Sure.
you know, to kind
Yeah.
of go back and to pave into that way. I don't know when that episode's gonna appear, but it's gonna pop up to kind of like give you that backstory of
Yeah.
why Joel killed Eugene.
I thought the whole therapy scene was actually like a pretty good scene. It was pretty
Yeah,
like I don't know if tense is the right word, but it just like for a second it just makes you like wow, because like you watching season one, you love Joel, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
now you're starting to get a different version of him, or see it from other people's perspectives. That
Hmm.
like because you see him as like all right, yes he did that, but at the same time like he just has grown attached to her, so he did the right thing for her and for him. And now
Hmm.
you're starting to see all these different views of him, and it makes you start to question yourself a little bit. And like it's funny because it does make you actually look at him at some points and be like, damn, dude, you are being a little annoying. You're like
Yeah.
back off, just give her some space. And like she doesn't want you to do this stuff. I mean, I feel bad for him too because of the way he's getting treated, but at the same
Hmm.
time, it's like, he's kind of putting in too much.
Yeah. And then there was something that was also thrown in too. Like I said, I just threw out the character Dina. that's another big character, that's playing a role in Ellie's life, throughout this season and, part two of the game. Um, she was I think they kind of like gave her like a little glimpse, like fast in the season one. Can you remember that episode where like Joel and Ellie were eating and there was a girl walking and then she kind of like looked at Ellie
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then like she kind of like zoomed away.
Hmm.
So that was Dina, but it was played by a different actress at the
Oh,
time
okay.
just to do
Yep.
it. But then so they were able to, like throw that in there. So and another thing I love about this show too is, a lot of the voice actors from the video game are play as character like actors in the seasons,
Hmm.
so it's pretty cool to kind of like go back and then you see that.
Yeah. Speaking of that, like I actually didn't realize till the rewatch, the woman who plays Ellie's mom is
Mhm.
the girl. It was the girl who actually plays Ellie in the game. And I watched that. They did like the making of the episode after each of the episodes. I was able to watch that, and that's so cool. They got the actress who played Ellie to be Ellie's mom on the show. That's really cool.
Yeah. And so it's really special. Like I said, they it's not like, oh, we're done with you. You just create the game. That's it. They're able to put them into this storyline. And so a lot of people are in the game. So you can go back and look at the credits and everything, look at the actors and kind of like look around and then like you could spot them. But
Yeah.
it's been special.
Yep.
Um, Another thing, what like I said, um, another big piece of this season to me so far, it just kind of has me thinking like, what's going on here? Are they trying to protect this or what? Because they're still in this mode that Ellie's like a kid. They're treating her like a kid still. In this season, well, part two of the game, she's more mature.
Hmm.
And so that's one thing that kind of like bugs me is that we're still getting that immature Ellie from the first season
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
first game into this. And it's just like, this is not how it's
I
going.
I think my opinion about that is I think we're going to see her have a big character arc over this season.
Yeah.
I think season one was more about Joel's character arc. And then I think this season we're going to see her mature because I think that was actually really intentionally done. A lot of the
Hmm.
immaturity that you saw, like them in that whole scene where, they go into what was that? You said, was that a mall that they were in
The
or
market.
a market? But they just was making a bunch of choices that were super risky and just
Hmm.
like, like you said, immature. And it totally backfires.
But that's the thing. It doesn't go like that in the video game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like that whole scene where Da Dana and Ellie go out, you know, it was like they were chaperoned.
Hmm.
In the game, it's just them. They're going to do checks. They're going to do their task. And so even with their conversations and everything like that, yeah, they joked around, they played in the game, but
Yeah.
they just seemed like it was just like, all right. Like even with the council part, when
Sure.
they were like sitting there and like talking and kind of being like, put down like they were children, and it was just like that's not how it goes. So
Yeah.
that's my big thing that I have a problem with, but I hopefully, like you said, it'll be a shift.
It's
But
interesting though, because like their skills are seem to be recognized, but their
hmm
lack of maturity is also recognized. Because like when they're going out, they're clearly good at what they do.
hmm
Otherwise, someone would have stopped them from going in the market alone, right? But
yeah.
the girl that was chaperoning him was like, yeah, whatever, let him go. And I know she didn't want to because she knew it would have been on her if something happened. But
hmm
I think that like the fact that they're like good at what they do is also kind of understood. But it was a weird dynamic.
But it's so weird because, for like a little backstory from the video game and this. So the girl, like you just said, that was like, oh, let them go. That is someone that Ellie would talk to. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
And they mentioned that in the
yeah.
on the ride up there. the
Yeah,
horse
they were
ride.
kind of together, and she used also the tattoo artist. Like if you noticed, Ellie had a tattoo when it zoomed in onto her. She's the one that gave Ellie a tattoo.
Oh, okay.
So
See, they kind of played it down
yeah,
a
that's what
little
I'm
bit.
saying.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like, are you gonna
Yeah.
let them go? And it's like I don't know what's going on here. So like
Right.
that's and I looked into it, and a lot of people are also upset about that because that was the one thing when I was watching. I'm like what is up?
So, I mean, it's only episode one, so
yeah.
we got time for them to kind of work on establishing that more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is an interesting thing. They really did brush it off. Like it was just, oh, that's just someone she used to talk to.
Mm-hmm. And so, the game is like great at doing a lot of Easter eggs and stuff like that. There was little talks about Viper. That was like one of Joel's favorite movies, like little Easter eggs and stuff, posters and stuff you would kind
Hmm.
of find in the game. And even just that, like when they did go in, like up the truck to enter into that building. Like when they went through the window, you know what I mean? Like a lot of times in this game, like you're going through windows and stuff and into old buildings, it just puts you back into that setting
Yeah,
of like entering the window and then like
yeah, that's cool.
the cameras would turn and it was just like really special. Like, you know what I mean? In that spot, that part where they seen the Bud Light bottle and then
Yeah,
they picked it up and like threw it. That was their way of like distract the
as
clickers and then
as
infect it.
soon as I saw that, I knew that that was probably something in the game, and that she was
Yeah.
going to throw it and make and distract them, because
Yeah.
that is definitely a video game move right there.
Yeah, you would just do that. And then but the thing is, they did that in the first season also too. You would like use bricks and stuff.
Hmm.
But it was like they added it into here. So I know a lot of people that are fans of the games are probably like, yes, like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Because it was just like, it was just that moment. And they also, I think they downplayed a little bit too, like on that whole market scene, because like I said, like the build up to that, it just went way too fast.
Yep.
It was just like I said, like you didn't go through that whole little, running through town and doing your
Mhm.
task and everything like that. It was different. It just went straight to the market. And so, you know, that's not how they felt they got into it, but it was fine. And they did a little thing, like it was different because in this part, they just have Ellie falling through and
Yeah.
she's in the market. In the video game, the two of them are inside the market and you're dealing with clickers and infected.
Hmm.
And there was more than one, so that was like a scene in the game where you're just like, oh my God, like this is fucking crazy. Like you have to do so much, but then you get into the market and it was just one clicker. But it was cool because what they're doing now is they're focusing on like how these things are starting to get smarter. You know what I mean? And
That's what I want to ask you about. So with that clicker, there was some obviously like some different things about it, right?
yeah,
And that
yep.
was a really cool looking one too. There was
Hmm.
a few different aspects to it. What do we have to expect without giving like too many details? Like how much are they going to change over time?
It was just like I think we just have to continue to keep watching
Yeah.
because like at that point in time, like I said, from playing the game at that part, like that's not where that enters the story, you know? So I want to see how it plays out a little bit more because, but at the end of the day, like these things are getting smarter. And so
Hmm.
like you could see it, like that thing was basically hunting Ellie
Yeah.
and it was like using their same moves on her. Like when she stepped on the glass, and that thing was like kind of like running around
Hmm.
and kind of had like all these little things. It was cool, like the little camera angles where it's like fucking crawling from the top and everything.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yep.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a good scene right there.
Yeah.
And again, though, I think they really like highlighted how I feel like at some point Ellie's going to see like how everybody has to make choices, and like you
Hmm.
don't always make the right choices. People mess up, and I have a feeling that's going to tie into her and Joel kind of like working things through. But we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. So, what was it? Like I said, also they pay attention to detail and everything because it had like the jokes and
Hmm.
everything. Like what do you call a bear? What was it? A bear with
Oh, jeez.
no ribs or something like a cooked ribs.
Oh, barbecue,
Yeah.
barbecue.
So that's the thing. It's just like you're experiencing those things because it's like some points in time, like you're just sometimes you're on a horse riding and it's like two of them. Like, going through, just kind of like the game.
Yeah.
And it's just like their conversations and everything is just you're like listening to it and it's like you're just like laughing and stuff because they'll just say
Mhm.
some like corny stuff. But something that was really cool that stuck out to me was Ellie's notebook.
Oh,
And
okay. Yep.
in part two of the game, the notebook plays a big, big part because like whenever you get to like a certain checkpoint or you find something, like the it would just come right out. So like she'll pull it out and then let's start like doodling, just like she did with the barbecue joke. And it was like under that, she's like, "Don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up." And so like she does all that stuff in there. Like, and if you go back and you pause the scene you can see like so much stuff that was added into those books. I think it goes back to like the first season where she was kind of like talking about how she misses her friend that passed away in the
Yeah.
mall and stuff like that.
Yep.
And just like she just jots down everything. It's just like that at age. It's like that. It's her diary, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yep.
in the game, it's like a kind of way where you would kind of use it to kind of jot things down to kind of like open up certain, codes and stuff down the road.
Yeah, and like you're telling someone about things like because
Yeah.
she doesn't have many people to talk to about well
hmm
prior to her friends now, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and we noticed that, in this episode, a lot of the scenes are just kind of like thrown in, but in the game they're actually flashbacks.
Okay.
So there was a scene like at the end, like the New Year's Eve dance and everything like that. That was a flashback that kind of like plays out, but they decided to give it to us like right there and kind of have everything kind of go together. So
Hmm.
that's why I was saying like, oh man, like this is moving fast.
Sure.
Like what's going on? So I can only imagine where we're gonna go in the second episode. But like we said, we've seen what happened at the dance. What did you think about that scene?
So a couple of things it pointed out to me, and I think it was like important that they added this in. I mean, I don't know exactly where the story is going to go, but I
hmm
feel like again, this was all about setting tone. This was all about getting
Yeah.
an idea of like how people see them and things like that. So first off, we can look at Joel. Oh no, let's look at Ellie actually. So Ellie is like obviously has feelings for Dina,
hmm
and Dina's wasted and ends up kind of like they have this really intimate moment. So you can see like Ellie is, obviously longing for this woman, this girl.
hmm
And you see also that like she doesn't have a ton of confidence in herself in the realm of like how people see her in like
hmm
romantic relationships. So like she's kind of surprised at it, but like the girl kind of says like everybody's jealous of you.
Yeah.
Which was a cool scene, but then that the old guy kind of like calls them you know,
Yeah.
derogatory name and like
hmm
tells them to cut it out. So you can kind of see that, like, obviously there's going to be some stuff maybe with how the views of some of the people in the community there. And then Joel
hmm
comes into the rescue, um, pushes the guy down, and then Ellie immediately gets mad at him for even trying to protect her because she wants no business in Joel doing that.
hmm
And the guy kind of like gives Joel a look like they're afraid of him in some capacity, maybe, or they or like he's got some kind of status, but like it was a look also you give someone you don't like.
Yeah.
I just get the sense that there's a lot of people that just like tolerate Joel. Maybe they're a little afraid of him, but I don't
hmm
know that they like him.
Yeah. Like you said, Joel's changed. It's been 5 years. So we
Yeah.
will see how they decide to go with it in the game. I'm not sure, but like I said, I've seen a lot of different takes and I trust them because Naughty Dog is still, in charge of how
Mhm.
everything's going. It's not like they're like out of the picture, you know what I mean? And we're just gonna
Yeah.
take your show and kind of do what we want to do with it. So I trust what they're doing because like, that was the main thing. Everybody that was a fan of the first season and loved the game were happy. And so I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they're not gonna let us down with this one.
And then the episode ends with a really important thing kind of going back to the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So we get Abby's character kind of like telling other people that she basically spots the camp that they're in, right?
Yep.
And kind of left leaves off there, I believe, right? Just like kind of that acknowledgement that they see it.
Yeah, I had seen it, and so then it kind of like fades or pans away. But I'm not sure. Did it come first where they had that like with the fireworks? and it fell down, and then like you could see like
Uh,
something was coming with that pipe.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that was first. Yeah, because I think like it ends with that Abby scene. Actually, I forgot about that.
yeah. So we have that. So that's something that's a different take. So I don't know what we're gonna have from that, but I think there was trailer scenes that you could see like something's coming and everything like
Mm-hmm.
that. So don't want to give too much away, but like I said, it doesn't line up, but they're gonna do it the way they want to do it.
Yeah,
But yeah, that Abby scene, that's like it's so different because like I said, you've seen Abby at the beginning, and then from seeing her at the end, it was 5 years. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
So now it's 5 years. They finally found the camp, and it's like, all right,
Everybody's gotten real comfortable in 5 years.
yep,
So yeah, they're not going to see it coming.
yeah. Like you brought up, like The Walking Dead. You know what I mean? So it's like those are definitely things that we experience. Watching that
Yeah,
show
yeah,
with Negan, like finding Negan's camp or
sure.
whatever, or everything like that happening. So I'm looking forward to like how they break everything down, and yeah, I think that we should probably just cap it off at that. And because
Yeah.
I don't want to go into it a little too deep, that because that's what they gave us in that first episode.
So when we release this, we'll just have a few like what, like four more days till the
Yeah.
next episode.
Yep.
So we'll try our best to keep up with every episode and yeah, have a good time with this. And hopefully, if you guys have some takes on this stuff or some feedback about these
Hmm.
scenes that we're going over, feel free to, talk to us about it. Hit us up on social media, send us an email, whatever you want to do. Um, yeah, we
But
would love to talk about this stuff.
but just don't send any spoilers of the game
Please.
because we don't want to ruin it for Dave.
Yes, please, please. And we will do our best to avoid any spoilers as well. So,
Nah.
yeah. All right, guys. Enjoy next Sunday and we'll talk to you shortly after that.
All
So,
right.
see you
Take it
later.
easy.